Okay, we'll pick it up here for the last end of this, and what I've done in the interim is I've actually turned off the snap in the grid by F7 and F9. I couldn't do that with this recorder that's on there. But now you see we have both of our things on the screen, but now we can independently start controlling what layers are on and off, especially if you use settings and layer manager. So if you look at here, I can go into here and I'm going to turn on the layer, hitting the layer command, and I am going to just turn off or freeze definitely the border, and I'll turn off one of the sets of snaps, and I'll turn off the 3D lines here, and I will hit that and you'll see what happens. Now I have something I can do, a line from shift right click from the node, and you'll see it will grab the nodes. Nodes are only available to points. Alright, insert. If I want to now draw a line from the center of the one block to the center of the other, I will do a line from the shift right click, the insertion point. Really in key, the insertion point, you see an insertion point can be either the text or the block, and so that's kind of key to know, because sometimes you can be grabbing the wrong thing if you got a lot of text floating around. So you have something here where it's pulling from insertion to insertion. Maybe now we might want to go and grab those other points. I don't know what the ramification be or why we would do it. We might want to grab the other points, so we can go back to the layer command. And now instead of having one set of points on, we can have the other set of points on. This obviously has to be thought out. It's extremely useful, or at least creative, to learn how to use the tools that you have. Again, the node, learning that the node is a really key snap to do, node to node. And finally, for this last one, we can just we might want to go and remember, we can change where we look at things in space by either this kind of weird little steering wheel, which is an incredibly good one, or V-point. So I'm just going to demonstrate that since you're not really doing 3D. But if you grab that, hit orbit, and then you click on something, you can see now we got the 2D version there. So now we could go back to layer and turn on maybe the 3D lines. Click it outside and you see what you have here, that you have an ability to go ahead and just turn on the 2D or 3D. That's going to be really key, especially if you start looking at controlling something called the attribute, or the height of the block over time. So if you want to have different moving shapes, or perhaps it will be, I don't know, flow or current that might be depicted by some sort of graphic, 3D graphic. That height of the 3D could be controlled by some exterior or external driver, if you would. It could be a PLC switched. So there's a lot that can go on in blocks, but to review, this is what we've done. I'm going to go back here a couple of times. Turn everything on, minus layer, on, star, thaw, star. So we have gone and made, when we did our blocks, we were very careful to make sure that our blocks fit into this kind of standard grid. That the grid, if I turn on grid on and snap on, that the grid matched our block definition. That we defined a great number of blocks, or a great number of layers potentially in a given block. Primarily, the one that being most important is that you put things on layer 0 if you want them to be the universal chameleon. You make a border layer just so realistically you can kind of later on figure out if things are going correct. So in other words, this border was a 1 by 1. So if I turn my grid off and turn my snap off, and I might do now an array. I'm going to array. Remember, we usually do minus array, but I'll do 4 by 4. I'll select my objects, and I'm going to go row offset of 3 and column offset of 3, and I hit that button, and you see we've gotten a whole set of that's. We got one this and many that's. Finally, you'll learn that you can edit text that's on the screen by DD edit, but the best way to attribute, you can double click on these things and do it that way. You can do all kinds of ways. I like to do DDATTE, which is dynamic dialog attribute edit, so you can try this, that, the other. There's a lot of great uses in this in terms of, especially if you're going to number blocks, but understanding that if you're going to have repeating text in a block, or something that's going to be repeating and changed following a shape, you want to use attributes. That's all we got for this one. That'll make that 15 minutes for the final bit of blocks. Thanks for listening.